In a damp alley of a slum in Shanghai, an old door was forcefully broken open, revealing a horrifying secret. A woman's lifeless body lay motionless on the bed, her skin pale and bluish, surrounded by a chilling scent of death. There were no signs of struggle, no traces of resistance. Yet the blood in her body had almost entirely vanished. Who committed this gruesome crime? And for what purpose? A renowned artist known for his blood paintings, a twisted love, and a manhunt for a killer that shocked the entire city. When art crosses the boundary of beauty and descends into madness, the price paid is beyond measure. Prepare yourself as we uncover the details of this shocking case. A horrifying discovery in a long-abandoned house. On February 12, 2011, the 10th day of the Lunar New Year, the festive spirit had started to fade, and most people had returned to their daily routines after the holiday. In the outskirts of Hongkou, Shanghai, China, a region filled with impoverished slums, life never seemed to stop being difficult. Ms. Zhun, a woman living in this slum, led an incredibly difficult life. A tragic traffic accident had taken away her entire family, leaving her to face the world alone, struggling to survive. She took on any job she could. She once worked as a janitor for a nearby company, which gave her a relatively stable income. However, when the company closed down, she was left in despair, scraping by with recycling work and odd jobs in eateries and street stalls. That evening, at 6 p.m., Ms. Zhen returned home as usual. As she walked past the house of a young female neighbor, she realized she hadn't seen the girl for several days. A bad feeling gnawed at her, prompting her to check in. The house was locked from the outside, heightening her worry. Though the girl often came and went at odd hours, it was rare for her to disappear for this long. The lock had remained shut for days. Filled with unease, Ms. Zhun decided to break open the door. The flimsy doors of the slum weren't difficult to force open. As the door swung ajar, a pungent, foul odor rushed out. Swarms of insects flitted through the stifling air. Ms. Zhun covered her mouth and stepped inside, only to freeze in shock at the sight of the young woman's corpse lying on the bed. Her body was pale and bluish, a chilling sight. Overwhelmed by fear, Ms. Zhun managed to collect herself and immediately called the police. Upon receiving the report, the police quickly arrived at the scene. The victim's house, a cramped space of just 10 to 15 square meters, lay within the narrow confines of the slum. The interior was tidy, with no signs of disturbance or disorder. The police found no traces of a struggle or dragging, indicating there had been no physical confrontation during the crime. Forensic examination. Shocking cause of death. Using specialized equipment to search for fingerprints and biological traces, the police found nothing. This further confirmed that the victim did not resist during the attack. The forensic team conducted a preliminary examination of the body. The victim was a young woman, estimated to be between 20 and 30 years old, with an attractive appearance. She was found lying on her back, wearing only a bath towel that covered her intimate areas. There were no signs of sexual assault or traces of sperm in her genital area. The body had begun to decompose, and the skin had turned a bluish green due to tissue breakdown. Bruising and necrosis were clearly visible, accompanied by the characteristic foul odor of decomposition caused by bacteria and enzymes. The forensic team examined the victim's arms and discovered multiple needle marks. These marks were visible on her arms and neck, with surrounding bruising and swelling. Near the body, there was a small blood stain. Based on extensive experience, the forensic examiner concluded that the victim had been exsanguinated, bled to death, through the use of syringes. The time of death was estimated to be approximately 7 days prior. However, this was only a preliminary conclusion. To provide a definitive answer, the forensic team needed to conduct an internal autopsy of the body. While awaiting the autopsy results, the police searched the area around the scene, hoping to find the syringe used by the perpetrator. Unfortunately, this effort yielded no results. Aside from Ms. Zhang, the victim's neighbor, the police questioned other residents in the area. However, in this impoverished slum, no one knew anything about the young woman. The residents were too busy struggling to survive and paid little attention to their neighbors. The area was also isolated, and the residents couldn't afford security cameras. This lack of surveillance further complicated the investigation. Victim's identity and forensic conclusion. Based on identification documents found in the house and Ms. Zhang's testimony, the police identified the victim as Wei Hongxin, a 26-year-old woman. She worked as a prostitute at an illicit karaoke bar near the city center. Due to the nature of her job, bringing clients home was not unusual, making it likely that the perpetrator could be a customer or someone she knew. After collecting evidence at the scene, Wei Hongxin's body was taken to the morgue for a detailed examination. The forensic team conducted an internal autopsy and found that the victim had lost a significant amount of blood. The blood vessels were nearly empty or contained only minimal traces of blood. By making an incision from the sternum to the pubic bone to access the internal organs, the forensic examiners inspected the heart and major veins. Due to the severe blood loss, the heart was almost empty. 7 days after death, the remaining blood in the body was so minimal that examining the veins became challenging. Given her height of 1.62 meters and weight of 47 kilograms, the average blood volume in her body would have been between 4 to 5 liters. However, the forensic team determined that approximately 3 liters of blood had been drained, a shocking amount that led to hypovolemic shock and death. The severe lack of blood caused significant contraction of the veins and arteries. The forensic examiners discovered needle marks on the victim's arms, particularly in the antecubital vein, the vein at the front of the elbow. This vein is easy to access and can provide a large quantity of blood. Additionally, needle marks were found on the neck, where major veins are also accessible if the correct technique is used. This indicated that the perpetrator had some medical knowledge and knew how to select veins rich in blood for efficient extraction. Although the method of blood extraction was identified, the police were still unclear about the perpetrator's motive for draining the victim's blood. The forensic team examined the victim's uterus and genital area to determine if there had been any sexual assault. The results showed no sperm in the uterus and no injuries to the genital region. This confirmed that the victim was not raped or tortured for sexual purposes. Finally, fluid samples from the victim's body were sent for microbiological and chemical analysis to check for signs of toxins, drugs, or foreign substances. The results revealed that the victim had been injected with a large dose of anesthetic. This explained why she quickly lost consciousness and was unable to resist the perpetrator's gruesome act. From the fluid samples, the forensic team determined the time of death to be February 5th, the third day of the Lunar New Year. On February 12, 2011, after the discovery of the young woman's body in the slum of Hongkou, Shanghai, the police were unable to find any information about the victim's family. They posted notices around the karaoke bar where she worked and published information through media outlets, hoping someone would come forward to identify the body. Surprisingly, the person who came to claim the body was Li Danxiang, a woman around the same age as the victim. Li Danxiang was a close friend and colleague of Wei Hongxin. Having worked together at the karaoke bar for years, they were as close as sisters. Upon seeing the lifeless body on the examination table, Li Danxiang went into shock, her heart racing and her legs trembling. Through her anguish, she confirmed to the police that the deceased was indeed Wei Hongxin, 26 years old. The victim's tragic life and complicated relationships. According to Li Danxiang's testimony, Wei Hongxin was an orphan. Her parents died in a work-related accident. Afterward, she was taken in by her aunt. But the real motive was to seize the large compensation money left behind by her parents. Once her aunt obtained the money, she heartlessly sent Wei Hongxin to an orphanage. At 18, Wei Hongxin left the orphanage and began fending for herself. She took on various jobs, from waiting tables at diners to handing out flyers. However, despite working tirelessly, she could barely afford the high cost of living in Shanghai. The instability of her life kept her constantly in financial distress. One day, at the diner where Hongxin was working, a regular customer introduced her to a job at an illicit karaoke bar near the city center. With her striking beauty at the age of 18, Hongxin decided to give this new line of work a try, hoping to improve her life. She moved from the city center to the slums to save on living expenses. Over time, Wei Hongxin managed to save a decent amount of money. She planned to work until the end of the year and then quit to pursue her dream of studying art. Since childhood, Hongxin had shown a talent for painting and always longed to become an artist. She knew that transitioning from a prostitute to an artist would not be easy, but she was determined to try. For Hongxin, simply following her dream was worth it, even if it cost her everything. Li Danxiang also revealed that Wei Hongxin was romantically involved with a successful businessman. However, the man was already married. Despite this, Hongxin accepted being the other woman because the man was generous, regularly providing her with financial support, which allowed her to spend and save comfortably. Although the police gained some information about Hongxin's romantic relationships, they still hadn't identified any specific conflicts or the identity of the last person she met. To expand their investigation, the police decided to visit the karaoke bar where Hongxin worked to gather more clues. The karaoke bar owner confirmed that Hongxin had been working there since she was 18. In the beginning, she was deeply shocked by the complex and seedy environment of the profession, but over time, she adapted and became one of the bar's standout employees. Despite finishing high school at the orphanage, her lack of higher qualifications made it impossible to secure a better job. Wei Hongxin knew that achieving her dream of studying art required a significant amount of money. As an orphan without any connections in Shanghai, she clung to her job at the karaoke bar to make a living. From the start, the money she earned from this job astonished her. In just a few days, she could make the equivalent of a month's hard labor. The allure of money held her youth captive at this place, until tragedy struck. The fateful day and the first suspect in the case. On February 5, 2011, the third day of the Lunar New Year, the karaoke bar where Wei Hongxin worked was busier than usual. During this time, wealthy patrons and customers from various places took advantage of the holiday to seek entertainment. Wei Hongxin arrived at the bar at 2 p.m. to prepare for her shift. As always, the bar was bustling with preparations for food, drinks, and electronic equipment in the rooms. By 6 p.m., the staff began welcoming customers. The continuous stream of clients made the atmosphere lively and noisy. Around 10 p.m., Wei Hongxin informed the bar owner that she would be taking a customer home. Because the bar was packed and the noise level was high, the owner only vaguely heard that it was a regular client, but couldn't identify who it was. That evening, the room where Wei Hongxin worked hosted about 5 men, most of whom were middle-aged seafood businessmen from a nearby area. Among them was Jan Yucheng, a 42-year-old owner of a seafood shop, whom Wei Hongxin regularly served. The police suspected that Jan Yucheng might be the last person to see Wei Hongxin alive, so they approached him for questioning. When confronted by the police, Jan Yucheng appeared surprised and nervous, as if hiding something. He was a middle-aged man wearing a floral shirt, with a protruding belly, a balding head, and a money pouch strapped across his waist. Upon hearing that Wei Hongxin had been found dead, Jan Yucheng expressed shock. He admitted to being a regular client of Wei Hongxin and frequently enjoyed her service. Wei Hongxin, in her youth, had a fresh and innocent beauty. As she grew older, she developed a more mature charm and finesse in communication. Despite lacking higher education, she loved reading and drawing. which gave her interesting stories to share with her clients. Her gentle and skilled demeanor made her the top hostess at the bar, serving high-status and wealthy customers. Jan Yucheng was also drawn to Wei Hongxin. However, he stated that on the night of February 5th, he did not leave with her. After having a few drinks and socializing with friends, he left early because he received a call from his wife. He needed to take his family back to his hometown on the 4th day of the Lunar New Year. Jan Yucheng insisted that he was not the last person to see Wei Hongxin. He claimed his friends could vouch for him, and the security camera outside his house could confirm his arrival home on the night of February 5th. The police checked the footage and corroborated his friends' testimonies. The evidence clearly showed that Jan Yucheng had an alibi. He was not involved in Wei Hongxin's death, although they couldn't find concrete evidence to charge Jan Yucheng. The police kept his information on file and maintained him as a person of interest in case new leads emerged. With Jan Yucheng ruled out as a suspect, the police were forced to change their direction of investigation. If the perpetrator wasn't Jan Yucheng, then who else could enter Wei Hongxin's home? The most plausible answer was someone familiar with the victim. Suspicions about Wei Hongxin's boyfriend. The police questioned the neighbors to find out if anyone had noticed anything unusual around the time of the crime, especially concerning Wei Hongxin. A crucial lead came from a female employee who worked at a phone store opposite the karaoke bar where Hongxin worked. The employee reported that on the evening of February 3rd, she had witnessed a disturbance right in front of the karaoke bar. A man had barged into the bar and dragged Wei Hongxin outside. The two had a heated argument, to the point where the staff had to intervene. After what seemed like a resolution, the man took Wei Hongxin away on his motorbike. Since the phone store was quiet at the time, the employee had a clear view of the incident. Based on this information, the police questioned Li Danxiang, Wei Hongxin's close friend. Li confirmed the incident and identified the man as Wei Hongxin's boyfriend, Jing Shanduo, a 34-year-old man. Further investigation revealed that Wei Hongxin had promised Jing Shanduo she would quit working at the karaoke bar. However, she continued to work there without telling him. When Jing Shanduo discovered the truth on February 3rd, he was furious, stormed into the bar, and insisted she leave with him. Could it be that Jing Shanduo, enraged by her broken promise, murdered her in a fit of anger? This motive seemed plausible, so the police decided to track down Jing Shanduo for questioning. A chance encounter and the beautiful moments of love. Jing Shanduo was a former photographer who later shifted to running photography studios. Currently, he owned 3 successful studios in Shanghai, each generating considerable monthly profits. When accused of murder, Jing Shanduo gave a bitter smile before breaking into tears. He recounted his tragic life story to the police. He married at the age of 29, and for a while, his marriage was blissful. However, 3 years later, his wife suffered a horrific accident. His wife, a passionate but not widely known actress, was severely injured when a suspension cable snapped during filming. She fell outside the protective padding and sustained critical injuries that left her in a deep coma. She had been in a vegetative state ever since, with little chance of recovery. After his wife's accident, Jing Shanduo fell into a severe depression. Only with the support of his family did he manage to cope. But after 7 long years of waiting in vain, he lost hope that his wife would ever wake up. Jing Shanduo met Wei Hongxin not at the karaoke bar but at a roadside eatery. That day, Wei Hongxin wore a short black backless dress, looking strikingly attractive. He found her attire oddly out of place for such a humble eatery. Yet, when Hongxin walked in and took a seat, no one seemed surprised. The owner brought her food without needing an order, suggesting she was a regular customer. At that moment, when Jing Shanduo looked at Wei Hongxin, she seemed perfectly in sync with her surroundings. Seizing the opportunity, he lifted his camera and took a photo. Wei Hongxin noticed this but instead of getting angry, smiled and posed for the shot. Her natural and captivating demeanor left a strong impression on Jing Shanduo. He decided to approach her table for a conversation. Through their conversation, Jing Shanduo learned that Wei Hongxin worked at a nearby karaoke bar. This didn't bother him or make him judge her profession. In fact, he began visiting the bar regularly to see her. Their conversations grew more intimate, and soon after, they entered a romantic relationship. Their love affair had lasted for nearly 2 years. Jing Shanduo's love and anxiety over a third party. About 6 months after they began dating, Jing Shanduo asked Wei Hongxin to quit her job at the karaoke bar, assuring her that he could take care of her for the rest of her life. However, Wei Hongxin neither agreed nor refused immediately. She claimed she needed time to inform the owner and continue working until a replacement could be found. By December 2010, Jing Shanduo brought up the subject again, and this time, Wei Hongxin agreed to resign. Concerned that she might get bored at home, he offered to help her find a new job. She declined and said she had already found part-time work as a receptionist at a small inn through a friend's referral. She added that she planned to dedicate the rest of her time to learning painting. Jing Shanduo completely trusted her and had no reason to doubt her. However, on New Year's Eve, February 2nd, while they were together, he accidentally overheard her mention another man. Wei Hongxin described this man as an artist with whom she shared a deep connection. Every conversation with him, she said, taught her more about art. Outwardly, these words didn't make Jing Shanduo jealous, but inside, a deep sense of insecurity welled up. He feared that his girlfriend was falling for someone else. Unable to shake off his suspicions, he quietly investigated the artist she mentioned. The investigation revealed that the artist was quite renowned. What puzzled Jing Shanduo was that the academy Wei Hongxin claimed she was attending was an ordinary institution, far from prestigious enough to hire such a famous artist. This inconsistency made Jing Shanduo anxious and convinced that his girlfriend had lied to him. To verify the truth, he visited the academy to inquire. The staff there confirmed that no student named Wei Hongxin was enrolled. He realized she had deceived him. On February 3rd, after dropping Wei Hongxin home, he discreetly followed her to see if she was going to work at the inn or returning to the karaoke bar. His worst fears were confirmed. Wei Hongxin was still working at the karaoke bar. Enraged, Jing Shanduo stormed into the bar and dragged her outside. They argued fiercely, but with her gentle words and charming demeanor, Wei Hongxin managed to soothe his anger. They left together, resolving their conflict that very night. Wei Hongxin confided to Jing Shanduo that throughout their relationship, she had never felt secure. He was wealthy, and she believed many women like her were vying for his attention. She feared that if he ever grew tired and left her, she would be left with nothing. Therefore, she held on to her job to protect herself in case their love fell apart. Jing Shanduo assured her that he had no intention of abandoning her. Even if his wife were to recover, he hadn't realized that Wei Hongxin lacked faith in his love. This revelation strengthened his resolve to prove his love not just with money but with genuine affection. He wanted her to quit her job willingly and be with him. After that night, they seemed to reconcile. With no more arguments or doubts, Wei Hongxin continued her work as usual, and their relationship appeared to return to normal. On February 5th, the day Wei Hongxin was murdered, Jing Shanduo was not in Shanghai. He had flown to Hangzhou to photograph a friend's wedding, fulfilling a long-standing promise. He left Shanghai early that morning and didn't return until the afternoon of February 7th. Police verified his alibi with flight records and airport surveillance, which confirmed his story. With such a clear alibi, the police had no choice but to eliminate Jing Shanduo as a suspect and redirect their investigation. At this point, the police were left wondering, who really killed Wei Hongxin? If neither her boyfriend nor a customer was the culprit, then the murderer was likely someone who knew her personally. The police turned their attention to the artist Jing Shanduo had mentioned. someone who might have fueled his jealousy and suspicion. The blood-painted canvas, the killer revealed. Based on the information provided, the artist in question was fan lynching, a 32-year-old painter gaining attention in the art world. What caught the police's attention was that fan lynching had once become famous for a painting made with his own blood. Further investigation revealed that after graduating from high school, fan lynching was admitted to the Capital Medical University in Beijing, majoring in clinical medicine. However, after 3 years of study, he deferred his medical education to pursue art at an academy. Despite his efforts and creativity, fan lynching's art remained unnoticed until he began using blood in his work. This daring approach catapulted his name into the spotlight as an artist willing to make personal sacrifices for his craft. However, his combination of medical knowledge and the need for blood made him the prime suspect in the eyes of the police. Immediately, the police went to fan lynching's home to question him. When they rang the doorbell, he appeared flustered and took a long time to answer. When asked about his relationship with Wei Hongxin, fan lynching admitted he had visited the karaoke bar where she worked and had been served by her, but he denied going to her home on February 5th. During the interrogation, the police noticed fan lynching's eyes constantly darting toward an unfinished painting. A detective approached the canvas and found something unusual about the color of the paint. With his experience, he suspected it was blood. When the officer picked up the paint container for examination, fan lynching rushed to stop him, his demeanor turning visibly tense. This suspicious behavior led to fan lynching's immediate arrest, and the paint container was sent for analysis. The results confirmed that the material in the container was human blood, and the DNA matched that of the victim, Wei Hongxin. This irrefutable evidence forced fan lynching to confess his crime. A sick idea and the victim's mistake. Fan lynching confessed that ever since his blood-painted artwork gained fame, the lure of money and recognition had clouded his judgment. However, constantly using his own blood for his art had severely impacted his health. He often suffered from anemia, exhaustion, and fainting spells due to his late-night creative sessions. Realizing he couldn't sustain his career by using his own blood, he grew desperate. Initially, he tried using animal blood, but it didn't inspire him. A twisted idea began to form, killing someone to obtain their blood. He targeted victims who fit specific criteria: unstable employment, no family ties, and a life that could vanish unnoticed. These criteria led him to women working in the sex trade. After some scouting, he chose the karaoke bar where Wei Hongxin worked. Wei Hongxin, an orphan living in a slum and working as a prostitute, seemed like the perfect target. She hadn't mentioned having a boyfriend, making fan lynching believe her disappearance wouldn't be discovered quickly. Fan lynching met Wei Hongxin twice before the murder to learn about her circumstances and relationships. He pretended to be kind, discussing art and tipping generously. His feigned kindness and artistic knowledge captivated Wei Hongxin, earning her complete trust. On February 5th, fan lynching visited the karaoke bar as a regular customer, the same one Wei Hongxin had mentioned to the bar owner. When Wei Hongxin suggested they go to a nearby hotel, he declined, pretending he wanted to learn more about her life. Trusting him, she decided to bring him to her home. While Wei Hongxin showered, fan lynching prepared syringes, one filled with an anesthetic and another empty for drawing blood. Wearing gloves to avoid leaving traces, he waited. When she emerged from the bathroom wrapped in a towel, he approached from behind, embraced her, and swiftly injected the anesthetic into her neck. The dose was large enough to render her unconscious within seconds. He laid her on the bed and began extracting her blood, storing it in prepared containers. After completing the gruesome task, he cleaned the scene, took Wei Hongxin's phone to dispose of it, locked the door, and left. The final verdict and the thin line of art. When arrested and confessing to the crime, Fan Lynching showed no remorse. He calmly stated that since Wei Hongxin loved art, having her blood used to create a piece was an honor and a worthy sacrifice. He didn't anticipate that her body would be discovered so quickly, preventing him from completing the painting crafted with her blood. When the police examined the unfinished painting in his home, they realized it depicted the exact position of the victim at the time of her death. Fan Lynching's crime exposed a twisted and deranged ideology, one that used human life to serve what he called art, a form of art that was deeply disturbing and horrifying. Once the police had gathered all the evidence and completed the case file, they handed it over to the prosecution to expedite the trial. This case sparked intense debate on social media. Public opinion branded him as the deviant artist. Under Chinese law, a crime involving the extraction of a victim's blood leading to death is examined from multiple perspectives, including the motive and the consequences. In this case, Fan Lynching's actions were identified as premeditated murder, a severe crime. Chinese law mandates that intentional homicide typically results in the harshest penalties. The court considers mitigating and aggravating factors before issuing a sentence. Due to his depraved motive and brutal act of draining the victim's blood to fulfill his personal ambition, Fan Lynching was sentenced to death. The execution was scheduled to occur 3 months after the case was closed. This case raised unsettling questions about the fine line between art and anti-art. Individuals who exploit the guise of art to commit atrocities, like Fan Lynching, are nothing more than deviants with twisted mindsets. For years, cultural regulators have worked to establish standards distinguishing genuine art from what is offensive and deviant. What are your thoughts on the perpetrator and the victim in today's case? Share your opinions in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Decoder Box channel to ensure you never miss more gripping cases from around the world. Goodbye and see you in the next video.